a person arrives. It's not loud, it's quiet, a shift in the air, a feeling you can't quite name. It's as if the universe has conspired to bring your souls together, a cosmic explosion in slow motion. The connection is magnetic, intense, undeniable. For the first time in a long time, you feel seen. You feel understood. It's a powerful feeling, maybe the most powerful feeling there is. And yet, this connection doesn't last. It fractures, it hurts, it ends, and it leaves you standing in the wreckage, holding a single haunting question. Why? Why would the universe send you someone so profound only to take them away? This isn't just another love story. This is the story of you, your shadow, and the invisible architecture of the psyche that shapes who you attract and why. The relationships you are not meant to keep might just be the ones your soul most desperately needs. Think back to someone you loved or thought you loved, but it didn't work out. What if I told you that you didn't meet them by chance? What if their role in your life was never to stay, but to awaken? There was a psychologist, Carl Jung. He spent his life looking into the deep, unseen parts of the human mind. And he had this idea. He believed that every person we meet is a mirror. They reflect not just who we are, but more profoundly, who we are not yet aware we are. He called this the shadow. It's a simple name for something complex. The shadow is all the parts of yourself that you repress, the parts you deny or just fail to see. It's not necessarily evil or bad. It can be your hidden strength, your buried creativity, your unexpressed anger, your deepest vulnerability. It's everything you were told not to be as a child. Be nice, don't be loud, don't be selfish, don't cry. All those parts of you had to go somewhere. They went into the shadow. These relationships, the intense, painful, short-lived ones, are shadow activators. They stir something deep inside you, a desire, an insecurity, a hope, a fear you thought you'd conquered. They illuminate wounds you thought were healed, or maybe ones you never even knew existed. They make you feel intensely alive, but also destabilized. You might wonder, why would the universe send me pain in the form of love? But maybe it's not pain, maybe it's revelation. When you meet someone who awakens your shadow, what's truly happening is a confrontation with your inner self. You are not just falling in love with a person, you're falling into yourself. The parts of you that were buried by childhood, by trauma, by society's expectations, they are suddenly right there at the surface, demanding to be seen. And the people who ignite this process, they are not meant to be your forever. They are meant to be your mirror. This is what Jung called projection. It's a bit like a movie projector. You have this whole film inside you, your unlived potential, your secret fears, your deepest desires. When you meet this person, you unconsciously point that projector at them. And you don't just see them, you see you, reflected back in the glow of your own unmet needs. You don't see the real, flawed human being. You see the fantasy, the rescuer, the redeemer, the one who will finally make you whole. You see the parts of yourself you wish you had. If you feel powerless, you might be drawn to someone who seems incredibly strong. If you feel voiceless, you're drawn to someone who speaks their mind without fear. You're not in love with them. You're in love with a missing piece of yourself that you projected onto their skin. And no human being can bear the burden of being someone else's salvation. It's too heavy. Eventually, the projection fades, the film starts to flicker. You begin to see the real person, not the fantasy, and the relationship collapses under its own weight. This is why these connections so often burn bright and end abruptly. They are not meant to be lived forever on the human plane. They are meant to be understood and transcended on the soul's plane. They didn't come to stay, they came to transform. The universe isn't cruel for sending someone you cannot keep. It is intentional. It sends you the person who cracks you open, not to break you, but to reveal you. That moment of devastation when it ends, that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of something far more sacred, the return to yourself. You swear you're looking for something different this time. You make a list. You say you want someone kind, stable, available, and you mean it. Your conscious mind, the part of you that thinks it's in control, is completely sincere. But the unconscious mind, well, it has other plans. It has a long memory and a poor sense of humor. It will seek what feels like home, even if home was a place of chaos, even if home was unsafe. There's a reason you keep attracting the same kind of person, even when you promise yourself you won't. It's not fate, it's a pattern, it's a coded message from your own psyche. If your early experiences of love were inconsistent or conditional, your inner child learned a lesson, a painful one. It learned that love must be earned, or chased, or feared. It learned that love is tied to anxiety, to the feeling of not being quite good enough. And unless that original wound is healed, you will unconsciously seek out relationships that replicate that familiar feeling. Not because it makes you happy, but because it feels like home. This is what some call an attachment wound. A physician named Gabor Mate talks about how trauma isn't just what happens to you, but what happens inside you as a result. An early wound creates a blueprint, a template for all future relationships. So when you meet someone who activates that wound, who pulls you close and then pushes you away, who gives you moments of incredible connection, followed by days of silence, it might not be the universe playing games. It might be your own psyche recreating a familiar drama. It's hoping, this time, for a different ending. It's your inner child, still trying to get the love it never got. It's trying to finally win the approval of the parent who was distant or critical. It's trying to prove its worth to someone who feels just like the person who first made it feel unworthy. But here's the truth. You can't rewrite the past by reenacting it. You can only heal it by facing it within yourself. These relationships, the intense, fleeting, confusing ones, are opportunities. They expose your blueprint. They hold a mirror up to what you truly believe about love and about your own worth. You may say, but I knew they weren't right for me. And yet, you stayed. You hoped. You tried to prove your value. Why? Because your unconscious wasn't seeking a partner, it was seeking redemption. It was trying to resolve the unresolved, to finally be chosen where you once felt abandoned. This is the hidden script playing out beneath the surface of your attraction. And unless you bring it into awareness, it will continue to direct your life, and you will call it fate. It's a bitter pill to swallow. The idea that we are drawn to our own pain. It feels like a betrayal from within. It's a sarcastic joke played by our own history. You'd think, after the third time, the lesson would stick. But the unconscious is stubborn. It wants to win the game it already lost as a child. And so it sends you these people, these mirrors, not to torture you, but to show you where the original wound is. They force you to ask the questions you avoided for years. Why do I give my power away? Why do I crave validation from those who will always withhold it? Why do I feel worthless when someone doesn't choose me? When you can sit with those questions, not in blame, but in quiet curiosity, something extraordinary happens. You begin to reclaim your power. So, what if the pain wasn't a punishment? What if it was a revelation? What if the purpose of these relationships was never happiness? What if it was transformation? Let that idea land for a moment. It changes everything. You were never being punished. You were being initiated. The universe wasn't being cruel. It was being incredibly efficient. It sent you the exact person you needed to meet at the exact right time to learn the exact lesson your soul was ready to learn. These people are catalysts. They are emotional chisels, carving our character, sculpting our soul. The heartbreak isn't the end. It's the beginning of the return to yourself. Because let's be honest, there are parts of us we would never look at unless someone else brought them to the surface. We need the friction sometimes. We need the longing. We need the heartbreak. The person who hurt you didn't ruin you. They revealed you. They were a sacred demolition crew sent to tear down the flimsy shack you thought was a palace. Why? So that you could finally see the solid ground underneath. So that you could build something real, something authentic. They came to demolish the fantasy that someone else can complete you, the fantasy that love is supposed to be easy, the fantasy that you are broken and need fixing. They didn't come to stay. They came to do their work and then leave. Their job was to crack you open. Your job is to see what pours out. When you can see it this way, you move from victimhood to authorship. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what did this awaken in me? And that shift is everything. You stop seeing the person who left as a villain and start seeing them, perhaps with a quiet sense of gratitude, as the mirror you desperately needed. You stop blaming the universe and you start listening to its messages, whispered in the language of your own triggers and your own pain. And most importantly, you stop outsourcing your healing to other people. You realize that the love you've been chasing outside of yourself is the love you've been withholding within. Many people miss the message because they get stuck on the messenger. They cling to the illusion that this person was the one. They spend years replaying the story, wondering what they could have done differently. They keep chasing the ghost of a lesson unlearned. The real healing isn't out there in getting them back or in finding someone new. It's in here. The most profound act of healing is not moving on, it's moving in. Moving inward into yourself, into your truth, into the parts of you that were activated by their presence. Because here is the secret: the person may be gone, but the parts of you they awakened are not. They are still here, and they are yours to love. If they awaken your creativity, that creativity is yours. If they awaken your sense of adventure, that adventure is yours. If they awaken your vulnerability, that tender heart is yours. You projected it onto them, but it was always yours. The work is to reclaim it. How? First, by witnessing your patterns without judgment. You become the quiet observer of your own heart. You ask yourself, why did I want their attention so badly? What emotion did they stir in me? Fear, longing, unworthiness? What story from my past were they unknowingly reenacting? You don't do this to blame yourself. You do it to understand yourself. Then you honor the wound, not by indulging it, but by tending to it. The part of you that feels abandoned, the inner child, doesn't need another person to rescue it. It needs you. It needs you to finally turn toward it and say, I see you, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. You become the one who gives yourself the safety, the presence, the compassion that you once sought in them. You learn to parent yourself. This process is not easy. It requires courage. It requires a willingness to sit in discomfort, to feel the grief, to hold the loneliness without immediately trying to fix it or numb it. But this is how you become whole. The relationship may have ended, but the love doesn't need to die. It simply needs to transform. Let it become fuel for your growth. Let it become a bridge to deeper self-knowledge. Let it become a quiet prayer, whispered into your own heart. I will no longer abandon myself in the name of love, because this is how you break the cycle. You become so full of your own presence, your own validation, that you no longer attract people who require you to abandon yourself to be with them. When you make the unconscious conscious, you stop mistaking fate for choice. Your future changes, not because the world changes, but because you do. You'll still meet people. Some will stay, some will not. That's just life. But you'll no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You'll no longer chase what triggers your wounds, mistaking that painful chemistry for love. You'll recognize projection when it happens. You'll feel that old, familiar pull towards someone who seems like the answer to all your problems, and you'll be able to smile quietly to yourself. You'll know that what you're seeing is just a reflection, and you'll bring that projection home, back to yourself, rather than acting it out. You'll understand that every soul you meet is either love to be realized or a lesson to be remembered. You'll stop asking, was that real? And you'll start asking, what did it reveal? And most of all, you'll open your heart again. But this time, it will be different. You won't be opening it from a place of need, hoping someone will come and save you. You won't be looking for someone to fill a void. This time, you'll be opening it because you are finally whole enough to share your soul, to love from fullness, not from lack, to amplify your light, not to search for it in someone else's eyes. This is the liberation that Jung pointed to live with clarity, with depth, with presence. You begin to choose your relationships consciously instead of having them chosen for you by the unhealed wounds of your past. So, as we close this journey, think of that person, the one you weren't meant to be with, but who changed everything. What did you learn? Not about them, but about yourself. What part of you was reborn in the fire when they walked away? The universe is not cruel, it is wise. It does not waste love, it uses it to shape you, to wake you, to guide you back to your center. The person you're not meant to be with was never the destination. They were the door, a door that led you back to yourself. You didn't fail. You didn't waste your time. You didn't misread the signs. You experienced a soul contract fulfilling its purpose. And now that purpose is complete. You are free. Not just from the person, but from the illusion that love must look a certain way to be real. You have done the work. You have walked through the fire and reclaimed the lost pieces of yourself. You are no longer chasing ghosts. You have become your own source of light. But here's a thought for the quiet moments. Now that you finally integrated your shadow, what kind of shadow are you casting for the next person to find?